Hello everyone, this is Meter and Nuts, and today we'll be continuing our beginner-friendly Road to OSCP video series. Today we'll be looking at another HackTheBox machine, that is Traverxec. Traverxec is based on Linux and the difficulty is easy, so let's just get started. So first thing what I always do is I run an AutoRecon scan on the target machine. So if you guys don't know what AutoRecon is, it's an enumeration tool. It's going to do few nmap scans on the target machine at first, and based on the open ports and services, it's going to do additional scans on them. 95% of the time it works really great. At times you have to manually enumerate things further in order to get the desired result or something like that. So I am running this AutoRecon tool as root, so I'll be giving sudo over here since I'm running the box as Kali, and I'll be giving Python 3 in order to run this file. So this file is available on GitHub and not pre-installed in Kali, so make sure you'll go and download it from there if you all want it to be present in your system. So I'll be giving the target IP address as 10.10.10.165. In the case of Traverxec, I'll be giving the O switch for output directory and the output directory location. So I did already execute the scan, so let's just go and look at the scan results. So this is what the directory structure would look like after the scan. So let's just go over here, and first thing what I always do is I look at the full TCP nmap scan. And if you look at that, we do have two ports open, port 22 running SSH, and there's a version number over here as well, and we do have port 80 running HTTP over here with some version number over here. So this looks a bit unique. Why? Because obviously there's like Apache version or something, and I mentioned in the previous videos as well, try to do a version check with Searchploit or something, see if there are any exploits available for that. So over here this thing looks interesting, so let's just make a quick note over here. So let's just enter port 22 and port 80 over here, and let's just add nostromo. Okay, so now once we do that, let's just go and do a Searchploit, and let's just do nostromo over here, and we do see for the same exact version we have a remote code execution exploit over here present. So let's just try and look for that. So we'll be giving the M switch over here for mirror, so it will actually copy this exploit to our current working directory. So before that, let's just go to the exploit directory over here, and then probably run this particular thing. So we came to the exploit directory and we got this thing downloaded over here, so we can go and look at that exploit and see if there is something interesting over here. Another thing is this exploit was released like in December 2019, so probably after the box was released. So we'll just look into this. Obviously some user has created this, I think it's over here, username Croft. Okay, so this exploit, if you see, it's basically doing this directory traversal thing over here, and then probably it's adding bin sh, and the way the nostromo server something it's designed, it's that you're going to get a remote code execution or something. So there's some vulnerability present over there, and so that's how it's actually happening, and that's why this bin sh is going to give you some command execution. So we can just do a quick check over here as well, because if we do not have this thing present in Searchploit, what we would do is we can go and do a search on Google. Over here we come across multiple articles, you can check for that. Also we come across an article from October over here, and this is what it mentions. It mentions the previous exploit over here, that is like for 1.93, and then it says that there's a modified version, and it says that there is some new POC as well which this user has created, and this is the POC, and this works as well for our current box, so you can get this one executed as well. Okay, so in the analysis it finds like obviously you can go and read through it, but it's doing a directory traversal first, and after that it's trying to bypass something like with the %ds over here, so %0d. So this is what's happening over here as well in our particular exploit code, and later on after that it's like how is that bin sh is actually executing, right? So this is where it comes, and there's a function that is execve over here, and this is the vulnerable function over here, and that's how they achieve RCE. Okay, so that's why it's like directory traversal and RC, part traversal and RC. Okay, so if you guys don't know what directory traversal is, I've explained in the previous videos as well, so you can go and check it out over there. I think it's in the servmon box, so you can go and check that out. So it's basically like going back directories and try to execute something. Okay, so let's just quickly go, and we have this particular py file, so let's just create another copy of this and probably name it like exploit py, or we can mention something like, okay, let's just keep it short, exploit py, and let's just try to open this exploit.py file, and if you try to run this particular file first, so it's going to give you an error. So if you just do python exploit py, so the error would come over here, that is this thing. So make sure this thing over here, it's not required actually, because there's no import or something over here. So it's just like, you know, you have to just comment it out or delete it. You can delete the entire thing over here on top if required, but that's not required anymore, so that will fix it. So let's just try and run it, and it will say the usage. Obviously don't, like, you know, don't get confused over here. The name over here itself is different because it indicates that the exploit file name also was this, so then it will be applicable. But obviously our exploit file name is this, so let's just keep that. Target IP, that is 10.10.10.165, and the target port, that is 80, and the command. So let's just keep it simple and enter who am I. Let's just hit enter. We do get www data. That means we have successful remote command execution over here. So this works great. So now what we can do is, next thing, we can even check for host name over here to confirm that obviously that's the same target machine, and obviously we do have Traverxec over here as well. So next thing is we can try to get a reverse shell. So before that, okay, let's just, okay, get it below. So before that, we can just try and get a bash reverse shell. So bash reverse shell, one liner, and we can go in Pentest monkey, or we can go to payloads, all the things as well, and probably there'll be something like this. So copy this thing over here and try to, instead of host name, we'll add that bash shell. So add it in quotes because there are spaces, right? Otherwise it may break because there are spaces over here. So if you don't add these quotes, it's just going to take this as the input. Okay, so we do have this bash thing over here. Over here, we have to enter the attack machine's IP address, because first let's just start our NVLP port 444. So this is nothing but I'm starting a netcatalyst now over here, and I'll be giving the N switch for numeric IPs only, V for verbose output, more verbose output, and L for listening mode, and P is for the port number, that is 4444. So netcat, if you guys don't know, I'm trying to listen to a connection. It's like, you know, it establishes a connection or something, and it will try to communicate, like, you know, with the target machine. So that's, I'm establishing a connection and waiting, listening, so that this attack machine over here, where we have this RCE, sorry, the target machine, will send us a code over here, code or probably a connection. Yeah. So we'll enter this attack machine's IP address. So this is my attack machine's IP address currently on HackTheBox VPN. For you all, it may be different. You all can do an IP and figure, like, you know, find it out. So make sure you do that and give the port number over here as well, that is 444, because this is where I'm running. You can give different ports as well. Okay, so if we run this, so probably this thing would not work. Why? Because we need to give bin bash and the C switch to execute this. So we can enter something like bin bash, then C over here. Oh, and there is Python as well. So if you all want, you can add Python as well. But we'll just go with bash, keep it simple. Okay, let's do this. Add the quotes over here, because if you give the C switch and don't add the quotes, it's just going to take this as a command again. So that's why, because this is the entire thing I want to execute, right, as bin bash. Okay, so let's just try to do that, and we see that we do get a shell over here. So if I do who am I, we are over here as www data. If I do lsla, we are over here as in user bin directory. So let's just go back over here. So probably this is where the nostromo directory is present, I guess. I'm not sure. The bin sh directory is present, I guess, because that's where that bin sh is getting executed. Okay, so let's just go back, and since we come on the box, we can do sudo l over here, and it says that probably you cannot use sudo l over here in short. So we can obviously upgrade our shell over here, and we can, if we do have Python over here, so let's just go and do that. Let's just minimize this a bit, and we can just do something like Python C import pty. So this is the command to upgrade the shell. You can go on Google and check for it. This is not the one which I'm creating on my own, so it's available. There's an article about it, so you can go and check that. So this is what I get. Okay, bin bash. Okay, so what we can do is we can just go to the home directory, and before that, let's just see if we have access to any of this. There is a David directory over here, but for some reason we do have execute, but we don't have read over here because we belong to the others group, right? So if you look at the groups over here, so we belong to www data group itself. We don't belong to David group, so we do not have access over here. Any which way, if we belong to David group as well, we do not have access. Okay, so what we can do is, next thing, obviously I do check for the OS architecture and version information as well. So this is what it is running, and we don't see anything much over here. You can manually check out for directories and find something. So next thing is we can just try and modify this particular, sorry, not modify, but run LinEnum scan and see if we get something. So first I'll just I'll two things. First I'll locate the LinEnum file. So LinEnum, y'all can get it from GitHub as well. Just do a Google search and you'll find it. So I use it mostly for all the Linux boxes, and then I use linps as well. But most of the times LinEnum itself was useful, so I did not have to use linps. But yeah, so I do have LinEnum over here. So now I'll be running Python 3 HTTP server. So mswitch for module, and HTTP server is the module I want to run. Looking at the port number, so by default it runs at 8000 if you don't give it as well. But I'll just mention it over here so that you'll understand what's actually happening. Okay, so I'm running this on my attack machine, and over here let's just go to the tmp directory or dev.shm. You can go either of these, and we'll see if we have wget. We do have wget over here. That's great. So let's just get this particular LinEnum file from our HTTP server. So that is LinEnum.sh. Then we'll have to chmod it. Let's just chmod 777. It's on the target machine, that's fine. So let's just try to run LinEnum now and see if we get something over here. So obviously when I'm doing the box for the first time, I'm going to go through each and everything more precisely. I trying to understand what's actually happening, what's present, and all these things. Yeah, so that's what I'm just trying to scroll very fast over here, but that's not the case when you do the box for the first time. I don't have tunnel vision or something to find something, but yeah. So we do have something like a release information and something over here. So we can just scroll down. We can look at for other users present. We do have David user as well. So probably we need to escalate to David user because the home directory, we did not get a flag as well, right? So probably this David user has to be owned or something like that. So let's just scroll down. This is something like the nostromo thing running over here. I don't think there are any cron jobs. Usually cron jobs don't even display over here. These are like the default cron jobs, I guess. You need to run pspy, but don't think we need to do that over here in this box. So obviously when you do the box for the first time, if you don't find anything, please run that pspy. Don't forget to run it. Okay, we do have something like listening, port 80, port 22 over here, and we do have multiple processes. Let's just quickly, since David was mentioned, we'll check that is there any process running as David, and we do not find anything actually. There are a few things running as www data. That's it. Don't see anything as David. We do have this NHTTP. Okay, nothing else over here. Okay, we'll just scroll down quickly. And once we come down over here, we do see something like nostromo config file, and we do have this HTTP password kind of thing, and we do have David over here and some hash present over here. So what we'll try to do is we'll just try to look at this particular hash and see if we get something out of it. So we'll just try to copy this entire thing, and we can copy this path as well. Probably it is useful, and maybe, okay, let's just try and see what if we get something over here. So next thing is we can just try and copy that hash as well. So we can have something like this over here, and you can take this hash and try to decrypt this and try to get the password or something and see if this thing works. So if we do that, that thing is not gonna actually work for our user, but we can just try to check and see if this thing actually works. But yeah, just save it over here and mention David hash over here, the file name, paste this thing over here, and we can go to hashcat. The reason why I'm saying is if it does not work over here, that's fine, but probably for some different box it may work. So that's the reason you should always know how to run and actually crack the hash if possible. So we do have something like this $1. So what we'll try to do is try to paste this thing over here and try to find, and we do get this mdcrypt thing over here. The hash looks somewhat similar to this. So the mode over here in hashcat is 500. You can use John as well for that, and John tries to it actually tries to identify this hash on its own, but then I'm just trying to do it with hashcat over here. You can do it with John, that's not an issue. Before that, we'll just try to locate the rock.txt, because that's a word list which we'll be using. So hashcat will basically try to compute, like, compare hashes of the current hash which we have and the passwords hashes from this rock.txt file. This rock.txt is like a password word list, the password list, sorry. And yeah, so let's just try running hashcat over here, and then we'll be giving the mode, that is 500, because that's what we saw over here, right, in examples. And then we'll be giving the A for the, actually M is for the type, what type of hash it is. A is for the mode, so that's the dictionary mode. Okay, and then we'll be giving David hash, I guess, hash over here. Okay, and then we'll be giving the word list, that is rock.txt. So let's just try running it over here, and it says you need to give force, so let's just try to do that. And it says all hashes found, so use show over here. So let's just do that, and we get a password that is now only for me. So make sure you don't copy this thing, but I'll just copy it so that this thing is separated over here. So now only for me is the password. And obviously you can try doing a sudo over here to David, and it will ask for a password. Paste this password and see that will not actually work. So just one way that you actually got the password, but that's not the password. And we do have something over here, nostromo conf, so usually good to check out the configuration files, right? And if you had some web application which require login or something, so we could have actually try to go and log in. Another thing is, quickly, since we just went over the version and tried to quickly go and find out things, my bad, 165. Okay, so we tried to do this particular thing over here, like the nostromo exploit and everything. We did not look at the page itself, so obviously first thing, go and look at the page as well and try to find out things over here. But this looks like a page over here, and like custom page, probably not some application. And you can try to check out the source code as well over here, view page source. Okay, so not the source code but the view page source over here for this page. Okay, so we do have this path over here, so let's just go into this path and see if we find something interesting over here. So let's just go back, let's just do cd, and we do come across this HTTP password, so where we got a hash, right? And also there's some httpd config file. So let's just try to look at that and see if we get something interesting. And we see over here we have something like the server name, that is Traverxec HTTP. We do have David over here. We have few things mentioned over here. I can go through it, and also it says that this particular server admin is actually David, but the set UID recommended, like, it's running as some other user, so probably it's running as www.data. That's why when we got our RC, we got a shell as www.data. So the password is present over here, which we already cracked it, and it was obviously not useful. So it says over here home dirs, so that is home, and it says home dirs public. So it says something like public www. So if we just go and look at this thing, we'll just try to Google it. So if we just do nostromo home dirs public, and if you look at the man page over here, so it mentions something like for this dirs directory. Okay, it's over here. Yes, home dirs. Okay, so over here it says that, in short, you can access the directory of the users over here using this particular thing over here, and you can enter the username. So let's just try to do that over here and see if we get something. So we'll just add this, and we'll add David because David user was present. And it says we got an application, or like probably like an image. It says private space, nothing here, keep out. Okay, so this thing is present over here, David. Obviously you can try for other users as well. So in short, this thing says that if you want a common directory which is like public to everybody, so you can have this home dirs public option set, and you can define it over there. So if you have this particular thing over here, so public www, so what I first thought was, I was trying to, obviously this is the thing anybody would do, right, until unless they actually know what's happening. So I just try to figure out this and try to add this thing over here again, try to enumerate things over here on the web browser and see if I actually got something out of it. but that did not work. And what you have to do, like obviously you have the David directory, you can find for this particular directory as well, public www, and in the target machine, and see if that directory is present somewhere. Or what you can do is, we have the David's directory, right? So if we just try and do a cd home David, and if we do public www, since this directory, probably we don't have read access over here, but this directory over here, public www, is like, you know, mentioned as like all the users can read it. So probably this has read access to multiple users, I guess. So let's just see if this thing actually works. So if we do that over here, we do see we come across this public www directory over here, and this is a bit unique, and you do get this directory over here. Obviously you don't have the path mentioned over here, so obviously it may be confusing that where is this directory. You try to find it or something. But if you try to go back to David over here, and let's just try to do an LSL, it's not going to, you know, actually list down the directories. So let's just go back to the directory which we were present in, and then later on, my bad, we do have something which says a directory over here, protected file area, and we do have this index HTML present over here as well. So if we just do a cat on index HTML over here, so probably it's a HTML file with the private space thing. So in short, it's like the same page which we saw over here, right? So what we'll try to do is, we'll just try and go for this protected file area. So let's just do cd this particular directory over here, and let's just go and see we do have something like a backup ssh identity files tgz file, tar and gunzip mixed. Okay, so we do have this file over here, so we can try and transfer this to our box, because obviously it says like ssh identity or something. And another thing is the password which we found over here, right? You can do a su as well as do an ssh, but it does not work either way. So we have this file over here, we can try to transfer it using this dev tcp thing. Or what we can do is another thing, we have this David thing, right? So let's just try to paste that protected file area, let's just hit enter. It will ask for a password, right? So earlier, which we had seen this config file over here, it says server admin is David and the user is www.data. So let's just try adding this thing and see if this thing actually works. So we'll add that as username and add this as password. So if you do that, it says okay, does not work. So let's just try www.data. I'm not sure, I don't think this is going to work as well. I think David is the one that you're looking for. So if you do that, we come across this protected file area, and we do have this backup identity files. So we can just copy the link location, copy that, and over here let's just do wget on that particular link so that we get that file. Okay, so it says unauthorized. Obviously we can just, because we'll have to authorize that thing. So from the browser you can just try and, you know, download this file over here, save file, and that's how you can download it from the web browser. The reason why this thing did not work is because you're trying from a different entity, and this was password protected, right? So that's why you have to authenticate it probably, and then okay. So because we did that in the browser, so it's different, and doing wget and browser are two different user agents, or two users, different users. Okay, so what we'll try to do is we can just try and run something like nvlp again on port 5555, and then we'll output this file as the same thing. We'll not change the file name. So we are listening over here. In short, what we'll try to do is we'll just try to do a cat over here on this particular file, and then later on we'll output this thing over here to dev tcp, and then the port, sorry, attack machine's IP address 14.3, and then the port number, that is 5555. Let's just try to do that and see if this thing works. So if you do that, we do get the file, I guess, and if you see the size over here, it's 1915 bytes. Okay, I think it's, yeah, so we do have this file over here, and it's the same thing, 1915 bytes. And what we can do is, it's a tgz file. Obviously if you want it to be easy, you can just try to extract this directory over here, or what we can do is we can do it from the terminal as well. Just trying to show you all the terminal way, because at times there may not be an option to transfer that thing to your attack machine for some reason. you should know how to do it on the terminal itself as well. So we'll be using tar over here because it's a tgz file, so it's like tar with gunzip. So we'll be using that, and then later on we'll be using the z switch for this gunzip, so gunzip extraction gzip, and then we'll be using the x switch for extraction mode, and then we'll be using f over here for the file name. Before that we can give v over here for verbose output, then we'll be giving f over here for the file name, and the file name is something like this, backup. Okay, we'll just try to do that, and it will give a verbose output over here. And let's just go over here to the home directory David, and it did not give us anything for some reason. Okay, because this thing is hidden, this directory is hidden over there. Okay, so let's just go to, let's just copy that thing file any which way. So let's just go home david.ssh and id rsa pub, id rsa, not the pub file. Okay, oh, we'll just try to copy all. Okay, so we do have all these files present. This was present in the SSH directory. It was not visible over here because it's hidden. So you have to check it from the terminal over here. Okay, so we do get these 3 files over here. So you know, this file, this, and authorized keys. So if you look at authorized keys, there's already a key present over here, and that's David Traverxec as well only. So we do have the ID RSA public key as well as the ID RSA private key over here. So this is the private key probably of David. So this is the key pair present over here. So if you do ID RSA, scroll over here, it says David at Traverxec. So probably this key belongs to David. So if you see over here, this private key is actually encrypted. So if you use this, there's like it's kind of like a two-factor thing, not two-factor exactly, but in order to actually use this key, you need to actually give a password so that it decrypts this key and then it is usable. So it is encrypted, so we need to find a way how to decrypt this particular key. So if you all, okay, so if you just try to do SSH over here with the identity file, and we'll be giving ID RSA, and then we'll give username, that is David, and then later on we'll be giving the IP address 165. So if you do that, it's going to ask for passphrase for key. So obviously that's not the same one which we found. Obviously you can try it for that as well, but don't think that's the same thing. So if you do that, it's gonna ask for it again. So that's incorrect probably. So what we can do is we can try and use SSH to John over here, and we will just try to locate it for SSH to John, and we do have this file present over here. If you guys don't have it, I think it's present in this John directory by default. So if it's not present, you can get it from GitHub, I guess, but I think it's by default present in the Kali Machine 2020.3 version. So we'll try to run this particular SSH to John, and it says that you need to give a private key present over here. So we do that, we'll just give the private key, that is ID RSA, and it's gonna list down this hash over here. It's going to change that SSH key to a John readable format hash, and you can take this, copy it and paste it, because at times there's some spaces or something, so it gets messed up. So what I always do is, instead of me copy pasting, I'll just redirect it to something like David key hash, something like that. So if you do cat over here on David key hash, it says the same hash file. Okay, so now what we can do is we can try to run John over here using the ROQ word list and see if this thing is actually crackable using this particular word list. Okay, so let's just try to locate that first. So let's just do roq.txt over here. So we do have this roq.txt. So let's just try to run John, sudo John, and then first you have to enter the hash file, that is David key hash, the one which we actually exited the output, right? David key hash over here. Okay, and then we have to give the word list over here with word list, and then this particular roq.txt. So we have to do that, and let's just try to run, and then later on we have to do something like, okay, let's just give the password over here. Okay, it will take some time to run, and if we see over here, we already have the password, that is Hunter. So Hunter is the password for the SSH key. So what we can do is we can just paste it. over here ID RSA is Hunter. So we'll try to log in now as David user and see if we are successful over here. Okay, so let's just try to do that, and let's just try to do SSH. Okay, I think we have done it earlier as well, right? Before doing, yeah. So let's just try running this again, and it will ask for the passphrase. So just paste, I just pasted that Hunter, and if you do that, we are over here as David. So if you do, who am I over here now? We are David, obviously, and if we see, we get the user txt file over here, and we can very well, read this file as well, because we belong to David over here. This actually is owned by root, but we can very well read it. Okay, so we do come across this directory, and this is that public www directory which we saw earlier, right? We have seen that this SSH directory is there. We can look for that if there are some keys over there, but don't think there is anything. Obviously, you can manually enumerate it and check for things. We can do a sudo L over here, and it says password for David, and we can try using this Hunter password as well as now only for me, and try to see if this thing works. But this thing would not work over here for some reason, and we cannot do sudo L over here because this is not the actual password for this thing. Okay, so let's just go to this bin directory which is present over here. Obviously, you can check out for bash history files as well, but this is like redirecting to symlink to dev null over here. Dev null. Okay, so in short, it's gonna actually, there's not gonna be any data present over here. Okay, so we can go to the cd bin directory, and then over here, if you see, we have two things over here. It says server stats head. So let's just try to cat this file and see if we get something. It's just like a artwork or something like that. Web server statistics David 2019 script, and over here it says server stats over here. So let's just try to cat this over here and see this particular file, and in short, it says bin bash, and there are a few things present over here. And over here, if we look closely, it says sudo Journalctl n5 and some service name, and it's doing cat. It's like pipe with cat. So what it's trying to do is, it's actually trying to run commands as sudo, and it's running this Journalctl. So we can try and do a search plot against it. If you are not aware what this is, it can be some binary or something like that, or some appli, something. It can be anything, right? You can do that, or you can go and check for it in GTFO bins as well, and see if this thing actually is present over there. So let's just try to do that first. GTFO bins, and if we come over here, let's just try adding Journalctl. So if we go over here, it says that this invokes the default pager, which is likely to be less. So less is a different function which we use over here. I'll just close these things first, and over here I'll just try to open some file, that is expert.py. So let's just try to open that using less. So if you do this, so less, it's gonna open this, and it's gonna let me scroll down slowly. So this is what it's gonna help me with. So this is what it's happening. It's kind of like, you know, and like a cat thing. So it's trying to open that thing, and you can scroll through it. So that's what it's actually doing. So it's likely to run less Journalctl. That's what it's saying. It's a bit difficult to understand at first if you read this. Obviously, this is, I'm sure that probably people wouldn't even read this thing. They'll just be like, hey, shell, I need a shell. Okay, this is how you do it. Journalctl bin sh. Okay, so let's just try that and see if this actually works. Before that, we can just try running this command and see if this sudo command actually runs. So if you do this thing, it says fail su to David www something like that. So if you keep running this, it's not gonna work. So let's just try and cut short this thing, cat thing. We don't require the cat, because after the pipe, any which way the sudo command is useless, because this command only would run as sudo, this would run as David. Okay, so let's just go back over here. Let's just try to run it. If we run it, it says some error over here, sudo error, but in short, it's running, right? So what we are not, you know, anyway getting to run this bin sh. So I don't know what it is. It's like a bit tricky to understand. But Journalctl, if you try to run this thing, it's gonna run as less first if there are like multiple results. So if we try to, obviously we can try to modify things like, you know, this n5, we can try adding a 10 over here, so that with n5 means it's displaying like 5 entries. So if I do n10 over here, it will display like 10 entries, but that thing would not work. It's asking for password because this thing is probably not mentioned in the sudo's file as no password, so probably that's why it's not displaying that. So n10 is not present, so we need to enter n5 as well as this on nostromo service. Then only it's gonna work. So otherwise it's not gonna work. So you have to have this thing present over here. You can obviously remove that cat thing. So if you run this, obviously it's running, but it's not gonna work. So in order to get a privilege escalation done properly, there are multiple ways over here, by the way. So first thing is you can just try running this thing over here, and you can just minimize this entire thing. Okay, so let's just try to minimize this thing, and I'll just tell you all how it's actually working later. So let's just try to minimize this and try to run it and see if this thing works. So if we do over here, we do get this less thing, right? So line 16 end or something like that, which we had seen earlier over here, somewhat like this. Okay, obviously we didn't get the line, but in short it's this highlighted kind of thing. So I hope y'all, it's like, you know, try to relate. So it's somewhat like that. So now if we try to add this bin sh, which is present over here, it's gonna actually work. So let's just try doing that. Bin, you can give bin bash as well, but let's just try and keep it simple. Bin sh, we do get this thing, hash thing over here, so that means probably we do get our shell as well. Why do we get root shell? Because we are running it as sudo, this command, the Journalctl, we were running it as sudo, so we got a root shell. We can go to our root directory over here, and we can very well read the root.txt file. This is the file, root.txt. The format is a bit different, but okay. So what we'll try to do is we'll just exit from this. Okay, let's just press Q, maximize this again. Why this actually works, it's a bit tricky to understand, because if you try to run this now, it's not gonna work. I mean, like, I'm left out, I'm like, where should I add this bin sh? But in order to get this less to be executed, you have to do it that way, because it basically means that if I try to decrease the size, right, it's like I cannot display this entire 5 entries properly, so that's why I'll use less. Okay, so Journalctl would be like, just okay, we'll just look into that in a bit, but we have this thing present. Another way is you can, you know, we have stty, how this terminal displays things. So we do have stty over here, and if I do that size, I do have 48 rows that can be displayed, not displayed, but it's going to consider that 48 rows for all these less and all these kind of things. So not going into much detail over here, but if we just try to do stty rows and just change it to probably below 5, that is 4, 3 or 2. So if we try to do that, I'll just try to do this as 2, and now I'll check the size. Over here the rows have been changed to 2. So now let's just try running this command again. If we try to run this command again, it's gonna do line 1 Okay, so this is what this less is coming now in picture. So the stty, this row, we are limiting it to 2. So this is where this row is coming in picture, and this is where the lines are coming over here. So if you just try to scroll down, this is what is happening, and it's the end over here. So if we go back, so it's a bit messed up over here now. Let's just quit this, clear it, and then let's just try doing that again. Okay, so now let's try, since we reduced the rows, right, let's just try doing something like bin sh again, and we do get the shell again over here, because if there is like a limit on this thing to be displayed, it will be using less. So in short, it will be something like if entries cannot be properly placed in on terminal, then use less. This is I'm not writing an actual command, I'm just trying to mention like what is actually happening. Else use cat probably. Okay, so in short, what it's happening is if the entries cannot be displayed on the terminal due to the file size or something. Okay, so it's, since we saw, right, it's gonna display limited characters because we gave only 2 lines. So if we just do exit over here, and if we press Q, and if we do this stty size thing again, rows to back to 48, it's gonna display the entire file list, right? So this thing is not going to work. Okay, so this thing is not working. So in short, this thing is like, if entries cannot be properly placed on terminal, then use this, otherwise use this. So this thing is not working. So obviously our loop will go from here to this, use cat. I'm not sure what it uses, but I'm just trying to say it's like kind of using like cat or something like that. I'm not sure what it is. It's using cat or no, but it looks like that, but not sure. Okay, so use that. Or if by chance this thing cannot be fit in the terminal, like it cannot be placed properly in the terminal, like if you consider this tiny thing, it's not properly placed, then you use less. So if this thing is not being placed, so you use less. And if you see over here, less also has this thing for bin.sh, you can use that and get a shell. So this is what is happening over here. It's a bit tricky, but I think it's good to know, so probably be useful later. So let's just try to quit this. Okay, so this was how we got root, and if we want, we can actually get a better shell. We can change this to 2 and try to do this over here. bin.sh, who am I, cd root LSLA. We do get this root.txt flag over here. We can very well read it because we are root. So this was the box, and also there were like few things. Obviously we did crack this password, but it was not useful. It is useful in this web application itself, on the server, the Nostromo server itself, and we used this particular thing over here. And you know, let's just try doing less over here as well and see. If we just do less exploit, it's going to display this entire thing over here. Okay, so if we just try to go back, and stty size is 48 as of now, so let's just try to do this to 2 probably, or probably keep it 3 just, and then let's just do a less python py, only 3 entries or something would be displayed over here. Okay, so this is what is happening. And if we go back and do 48, and if we do this, so all the entries would be displayed that way. So that's the display size, like how much it can display or output on the terminal. Stty, some lot of things happening over there, so that's why this thing actually gave the less. Just follow this thing, simple thing over here. So this was the box, and like, you know, first we found the service, vulnerable service, and then later on after that we did try to get remote command execution. Then we did find the credential, hash, but it was not useful. But we did find the config file having a directory mentioned over here, which was a bit tricky to actually, which was present inside the David directory. And after getting that, we did get the SSH keys. We did try to crack those SSH keys using the rock.txt word list, the password list, and also using John. Then we got that password, we entered in SSH as David into the box, and then post that we actually tried and, you know, escalate our privileges using this user bin Journalctl thing. Okay, so this was the box, and if you guys like the video, do give a thumbs up, and if y'all have not subscribed yet, do subscribe for more upcoming videos. If y'all have any queries regarding any of these things solved over here, so do drop it in the comments below. If y'all have any tips and tricks as well for me as well, so y'all can mention that as well. Okay, thanks a lot.